Hi, it's Mike from Mike's Unboxing Reviews and How To, and on today's video we're going to take a look at a Gigabyte power supply. And before you go into the comments section or you think the obvious, boom, fire, explosions, etc., don't worry, this isn't the same model. Although it is actually produced by the same manufacturer, which is called MEIC or M-E-I-C. This is a ultra durable power supply from people over at Gigabyte. This is the UD750 watt and is version 1. Now the reason I say that is because there are a few revisions of this available. I actually made a mistake, as you can possibly see. I've actually bought 3 of these for the reason that I thought they were something other than what they were. So I thought this was the V3 version, which comes with the ATX 3.0 and also the 12 volt high power native connection. Unfortunately, the eBay listing that I used was incorrect. They showed a different product and this is what turned up. So potentially I might be sending these back, although we'll see what happens with the seller and see if we can come to some sort of arrangement. Now, these were actually pretty cheap, so these cost £60 here in the UK. This is February 2025, at a time where power supplies are very much at premium prices. And to get a 750 watt gold rated power supply that is modular and also compact, generally you're going to be spending considerably more, somewhere towards the 70, 80, even £90 mark. Now this version is ATX 2.0 compliant, so it hasn't been tested with the ATX 3.0 standards, and I strongly suggest if you want to check out this in a lot more depth, head over to the review in the video description done by Tech Power Up, where they did a complete teardown of this thing, gone through it with a fine tooth comb to see if this is a worthy successor to the previous P range, which was the one which notoriously caught on fire, which most of you are probably thinking of. Anyway, with all that said, we're going to go through today just a simple unboxing, see what we get, take a look at the power supply itself, look at the dimensions, cable lengths and that kind of stuff, and you can decide whether or not this is going to be the right power supply for you. Now, like I said at the moment, this particular model, the UD750, in its various versions, the original and also the V3, are quite often reduced on sale. I guess that has something to do with Gigabyte's prior history with the P range, which caught on fire. So they're trying to claw back some customers by offering these power supplies at pretty significant discounts. So we'll start off taking a look at the packaging. So pretty typical Gigabyte retail packaging. As you can see, this is the UD750 gold rated power supply, and also has some key features listed on the box, such as fully modular, a main Japanese capacitor, a single 12 volt rail, and also it does have smart fan technology. So for those who don't know what smart fan is, basically if the power supply is under very low loads, this fan will not spin at all. As the load increases, the fan will ramp up accordingly, and also it is temperature controlled as well. So even if you're on a lower load but the temps are getting a little bit high, then the fan will kick in. Now I would like to have seen on this power supply a little switch to turn that smart fan feature either on or off, so you can have the fan constantly running or have it in smart fan mode. Unfortunately, that isn't a characteristic this power supply has. On the back of the box goes over some of the key features again. So again, talking about the smart fan, the capacitors, also the enhanced thermal protection, such as over voltage protection, over power protection, short circuit protection, under voltage protection, over current protection, and over temperature protection. It also goes through the cables and their various lengths. Something to note of this as well, on the 12 volt rail on this, most power supplies these days do talk about the 12 volt rail, and that is the wattage they put on the box. Now this one works out, I think it's around about 61 amps, so that translates to somewhere in the region of about 730 watts. So technically it's a 730 watt power supply on that main 12 volt rail, and the rest is made up from the other rails such as the 3.3 and the 5.0. So now let's take a look at what we actually get in the package. Now the power supply actually comes in very nice styrofoam packaging, so it's unlikely to get damaged in transit, and is also a pretty compact unit, as we can see here. We'll take a look at that in a little more depth as we go on. Also included all the usual things, so the Gigabyte pamphlet telling you all about the unit itself. Also you get some screws as well to mount the power supply into your chassis, and also it comes with the relevant power supply cable for your region. So we're in the UK, so we get a UK 3-pin plug and the traditional IEC or kettle lead style design. Next, let's take a look at some of the cabling. Now all the cabling on here is 18 gauge or 18 AWG. And first of all, we've got the main 24-pin power connector. This one is 600 millimeters in length. Well, 610 I measured it as, but 600 is what they recommend or suggest. Something which I really do like about this particular cable is the fact that the cables can be bunched up quite neatly together to make a very thin, well, structure, so nice and easy for cable management in the back of your system. So yeah, that's pretty good. And the 20 pin stroke 24 pin is one of those ones which you can take apart. So if you've got an older system and you're using 20 pins, you can detach the 4 off the end. Next, we've got our PCI Express connectors, and yes, they are going to be PCI Express because this doesn't have 12 volt high power, so you will have to resort back to using the old trusty 8-pin connections. These are daisy chained as well. So you've got the main connection going into the power supply, then you've got the 2 PCI Express connections, one of which is a solid 8-pin, and the pigtail version is a 6+2. So if you've got a graphics card that needs an 8+6, you can just detach the 2 off the side. 2 of these cables included, so giving you a total of 4 PCI Express connections. Again, daisy chaining them for some cards isn't always the best idea. Would have been nice to have seen an extra one of these included, but I guess at least it will cover the majority of graphics cards. Next, we've got the EPS connections, or your 8-pin power connections. These again are split, so 4+4. So if you want to use just a 4-pin or a 8 plus a 4, whichever you want to do, that's fine. 2 cables included. Again, these are the same length, 600mm. That is something which I would have liked to have seen these being a little bit longer. Traditionally, we like to see the ATX power supply cable being 600mm and the EPS ones being about 50mm longer or better, just so you've got a little bit more wiggle room when you're wiring up that top connections. Next, we've got our SATA connections, so 2 cables, again 600mm to the first connection, then 150mm between each subsequent one, and you get 2 of those included, so 8 SATA plugs in total. And last of all, we've got our Molex connectors. Now I know they're not Molex connectors, but people refer to them as that, so that's your 4-pin auxiliary connectors, the old-fashioned ones, which actually some devices still do use, some PCI Express add-in cards, fan controllers, fan hubs, that sort of thing. And also it comes with a floppy connector as well, which some devices still use also. So you've got 3 Molex connectors and 1 floppy drive connector. So now let's go back to taking a look at the power supply itself. And as you can see, it is a compact unit, 140mm in length, so should fit into pretty much any PC, and those that are slightly tighter on room, this is going to be great. Now the reason I actually bought this originally is because I have had a case come in from Colin Hilton, God bless him, which was the Antec C3, which has a ridiculously small PSU basement. So I think this being a shorter length and also having modular cables is going to be the perfect fit for that. So if you want to see how that goes, make sure you stay subscribed to the channel and look out for the builds as they come up on your feed. So anyway, back to the power supply. So 120mm fan in there. Now it does say on the website that this is a hydrodynamic bearing fan, which on closer examination, it does appear to be a rifle bearing fan. Now that isn't the end of the world. Rifle bearings are still very good, although they can be a little bit noisier, and certainly it's better than a sleeve bearing, which they tend to not last very long at all. So potentially, depending on where you get your model and when you get it, you may have a hydro bearing fan in there, or you may have a rifle bearing. There isn't really a great deal between the two, but it would be nice to see some consistency there. Moving around to the side, so pretty minimal branding on there. So you've got the ultra durable logo, and that is on both sides, again depending which way up you mount your power supply. And on the back you've got all of your connections for the modular cables. There is a warning on there as well that says please use the original cables for installation, and that is because a lot of the time people think that a modular power supply, that all power supply cables are the same. Generally they aren't, so don't just plug in another brand, so like Corsair or something, don't plug in their cables into one of these units because bad things can happen. Looking at the connections, so at the top here, so we've got our CPU connections, or the main 24-pin power connector. Then you've got a couple for your EPS or PCI Express, so 2 of those there, plus another 3 at the bottom there. So again, would have been nice to have seen that extra cable. And finally, there's 3 of your accessory connections. So that is for the 2 SATA cables and also the Molex cable. On the back, you've got your traditional on-off switch, and you've got your power input, and also you've got some mesh there to let the heat escape. Again, no switch on there for turning on or off the smart fan. Smart fan is enabled whether you want it to or not. Also on the back there is a big label on there, so saying that it is 80+ gold rated, also the model number, so the UD750 GM, and also you've got the ratings on there again for the 5V, 12V and 3.3, again showing 732 watts on that 12V rail. So there you go. Overall, I think this is actually not a bad power supply, and actually it did review rather well on the website. As I mean, check out the links in the video description, you can see that in more depth. There were a few pros and cons, one of which being that it doesn't have PCI Express Gen 5. It also isn't ATX 3.0, but in terms of its testing for ATX 2.0, it did pretty well and was on par with some of other models like the Corsair RM750 it does tie in very closely with that. Got good in-range protection, and yeah, all the protections are there as well. So it's not going to be a bomb, unfortunately. As much as some of you out there would love it for it to be another bomb like the P series, this is going to be absolutely fine. And also it does come with a 5-year warranty, which I think for a moderately priced power supply is pretty decent. Again, if you can pick this up for about £60 here in the UK, I think it's pretty much a bargain. These days power supplies are ridiculously expensive. I've actually got another power supply coming, which is a 750 watt bronze model, which is also modular, and that coming at £50. So £10 more, we get gold certification and also a slightly longer warranty. It's pretty compact and comes with some nice cabling. I think it's going to be suitable for a lot of builds out there. So anyway, I think that's going to wrap this one up. Hopefully you enjoyed the video. If you have, smash the like button. If you want to see more content like this on a daily basis, maybe consider hitting subscribe and the chime notification. That way you'll be notified of future video releases. But for now, I've been Mike. This is Mike's Unboxing Reviews and How To, and hopefully we'll catch you in the very next video. Thanks for watching.